Good evening, everybody. Welcome to RVing in New England. It's Wednesday night, and got my co-host John there, and we got our guest Jim Turntine. I never asked you how to pronounce your last name. I'll take a guess. Turntine?
Turntine.
Yep. Turntine. All right, with RV South Park. Not much local business, John, other than we started doing the videos for the dealers. You did a great job on the ones that you had this week. We do promotion for our Boston show, which comes up on January 24th, and we do have the fourth winner of our giveaway 4-pack of tickets, Joanne Kaminsky, and I haven't communicated with her yet, so I have no idea where she lives, but I'm sure she's close enough or she wouldn't have entered the contest. So we are live, and Jim, we're delighted. I saw her, God, I don't know. So, actually, Walter Swenson sent this to me. Walter is one of our regulars. He's also the director of the state director for the Massachusetts Good Sam. And he sent it over to me. He had seen it. And then I jumped on the phone and sent Jim some notes and what have you. And 2 days later, you're here. So we could introduce you, Jim, but I bet you could do a better job. So have at it.
Well, I don't know hardly where to start. I am in West Sullivan, Missouri. I was explaining to you yesterday a little bit. There's kind of a history. I always say West Sullivan because we're not in Sullivan. West Sullivan's my town. My wife and I, and actually my in-laws, founded the town in 2000 actually. And long story short, I've developed a lot of the property in the town. We've got sewer, water, got all the services to the town, and had RVs along the way, and been thinking for several years as Marla and I have traveled in our RVs that, there's got to be a better, somebody should do this. And I thought somebody would, and nobody actually ever did. And I wound up eventually deciding we're going to give it a shot. We had acreage right here off the interstate, right off I-44. We're about an hour southwest of St. Louis. There's, just a ton of RV and motorhome traffic on I-44. You can sit there every day, and as I've been building the park, I've seen thousands of them go by. So I don't know how many of them want to stop here and sleep for the night. Hopefully enough of them to make sense out of what we're doing.
Well, I did sleep there. I did in a Walmart.
At Walmart, yeah. Well, that's something I just don't like to do. I was saying earlier, I can't stand sleeping with the generator. I don't like it. I don't sleep well. I'm not comfortable. I don't like being in Walmart or Flying J or Cracker Barrel. Nothing wrong with any of those businesses, but I'm not comfortable. I'm anxious. I worry that I lock everything, or somebody gonna knock on the door at 2:00 in the morning and tell me to move. Or if that doesn't happen, I hear the truck's air brakes, or I hear the cars and shopping carts and people squealing tires. I don't like it. And
I slept through every one of those. But
yeah.
Bob, we have to stop the show here. This is pretty interesting. This is the first time, we've talked to people that have owned RV parks. We've talked to people that have owned RV dealerships. But Bob, this is the first time we ever talked to anybody who owned a town.
That is true. So,
are you the sheriff? Are you the dog?
The mayor and the sheriff?
I am actually the chairman of the board of trustees, and it is a real town, and I don't own the whole town. I don't want you to think I do. There's probably about 500 acres that our town encompasses, and I own probably 110 or so of them. And I've spent most of the last 15 years developing residential property. I own commercial property, industrial property, warehousing, just various things that we've developed. And I was in the real estate business before the town happened. It's a really long story. I was telling Bob yesterday, I always tell folks there's five incorporated entities in a 3-mile stretch of I-44, and we were the 5th one that came along. So we weren't the ones that set that agenda. We just had to deal with what we had to deal with, and it really worked out well at the end. It was kind of tough going along because we're just trying to solve really a sewer and water problem in the neighborhood. And through trying to solve the problem, I met everybody and continued to push forward, sort of like what gets me into building something like this RV park. I just plow on. I plow forward. And when you get a brick wall, you either go around it, over it, or through it. And so that's what happened.
Yeah. Hey, one thing, we're going to talk about your facility in a second, but we know you'll be successful. But if you want to be super successful based upon a RV post that I put yesterday. Get yourself an In-N-Out burger on that park.
let me acknowledge some people here. Jerry Plant says, isn't that part of the old Route 66? I think you answered that yesterday in our conversation. Is there an old Route 66?
There is. I'm actually sitting in my office right now, which is about a half a mile from where the RV park is, and I am on Old 66. It is still here. The pavement just outside my office is Route 66. The property where I built the RV park is on Route. We actually named the RV park Route 66 RV Self Park, and that property literally there was an old motel right there that was there on Route 66. And if you look at the overhead drone shot of the park, you can see the vacant land in front. The vacant land in front of the RV park. There was a truck stop there that I actually tore down about 25 years ago when I first bought the property. And I was explaining to Bob earlier that when we got our permit to widen the entrance, we've got about 100-foot wide entrance. So to be really, again, my whole objective here is to make it absolutely stress-free to get in and park. And so we widened the entrance. And when I did, I took out the old truck stop, and it's incredible how small of a driveway the old trucks on Route 66 were navigating, but they were smaller than the RVs today. It's kind of funny to think about it, but yeah, we're on Old 66, and we're actually coming up on the 100-year anniversary of the start of Route 66, according to my friends at MoDOT here in.
Well, I'll tell you, Jerry, who put that up? Jerry's an RVer. He's got a big diesel pusher, and also works at one of our better service centers here in New England at Major's RV. And Jerry's been on the show a couple of times because he's got such a vast knowledge. And I mentioned to you earlier today about Mark Polk, and Mark is on, and Mark, you're going to like another part of Jim's life. He restores barracudas. And
I see that's one right behind you, that orange one right behind you, right, Jim?
Yeah, I'm a CUDA addict. I have literally fell in love with Mopars and CUDAs. I used to be a Corvette guy. I was explaining to Bob that I like to work, and all I do is work. But I don't hunt. I don't fish. If I will go to races. I like racing. I'm kind of a gearhead, so I like working on cars. If I'm gonna. That's my hobby, I guess you'd say. And about a year ago, I remodeled my shop at home and started working on a project, and it got kind of carried away, and I wound up. I bought 6 barracudas and CUDAs altogether last year. And I'm restoring 3 of them. 3 of them are complete. They're already finished. They're perfect cars, and then 3 are under construction. So
who are you going to give those to, Jim?
Well, I'm building one for each of my granddaughters and both of my kids, and my son-in-law and my daughter-in-law and my wife and I. That actually is where all of them are going right now.
You're breaking Mark's heart, I'm sure. We also have Sandy Ellingson on tonight. Sandy's a consultant in the business. In fact, she consults with a lot of campgrounds, Jim. And she was intrigued when she saw the promo for the show tonight. And I'm going to be seeing her down in Tampa, I hope, next week on that. And Riney Layberger is on. Riney's one of our best RV salespeople in New England. He's with Bradford RV Sales and spends half his life in Disney World in Florida, but he's apparently back. I think you're back home, Riney. I don't know. You may still be down there. So.
He was gone last week when I stopped down at Brad's.
And if he's not at Disney World, he's on a cruise ship somewhere.
Yeah. So, Jerry says, ask Jim if he wants another son.
I get that quite a lot when I tell the story.
I bet you do. It is Mark with his Mopar stuff. And Mark, what year was your Power Wagon? I was trying to tell.
That Dodge Power Wagon.
Yeah, that Dodge Power Wagon that you win some trophies with. Okay, Riney's back home. Well, Jim, I put up an aerial there of the park. So as we said earlier when we were talking to you, I mean, a lot of people, I think, in this country have thought of this idea and said, why can't we do it? And we likened it to, John likes to tell the story about when Holiday Inn started and being at every exit on the highway. Why? Because people jumped in their cars and they started to travel around the country. And there wasn't a lot in the country at that time, but Holiday Inn figured out that, hey, if I give them someplace to stop and stay, then we all know what happened, 50, 60 years later. They had a great idea. But now we also see that our friendly RVers are out there, and it's not just going 10 miles to a campground for a weekend. They, like yourself, you've got the diesel pusher. You want to go touring, and you want to go see this country, and you're going to go 1,000 miles, not 10 miles. A lot of people like that out there. So give us the synopsis of the concept and what you hope to do with this concept.
Yeah. But Jim, before you do that, I think it's important for you to say, and I think you said it in your Facebook page, you're not anti-campground. You're pro having a safe, secure place to park when you're heading from point A to point B.
Stress-free. Stress-free is the phrase that I like to use. Look, after you've been driving all day, and no, I'm not pro campground. I stay in them all the time, but they're the destination. They're at the lake, the river, the state park, the national monument, what have you. And God bless them. That's where we all want to go. But in between here and there, I don't want to stay in a Flying J or a Cracker Barrel, and I'm willing to spend a few bucks. I want the power. I want the water. I want to have somewhere to dump the sewer before I take off in the morning, or if I'm going to decide to stay for a business meeting for 2 or 3 days. I can tell you that we have stayed in probably hundreds of campgrounds, never used the pool, never used the shower house that I can remember. We've used the store to maybe go buy some milk or whatever, but most of the time we're in late at night. We're hooking up. We're getting caught up on the day's business because we own several businesses. I was explaining to Bob that not only I didn't start out developing property is kind of my side job. I own a coin op business in Missouri, and I have quite a few employees and a lot of customers. And then I own a national sanctioning body for the sport of soft tip darts. And so I talk to literally thousands of players and people on social media with Facebook and whatnot. And when you're driving down the road in the RV all day long, there's no time to do those things. So at the end of the day, I want to catch up on my work. I want to pull in. I want to park. I want to get my satellite up. I want to watch the news a little bit maybe before I turn in and answer my emails, make any text or whatever I need to do. And the problem is, a lot of times we don't know when we can leave. My wife and I are busy, and we have an old dog. And we don't like to leave our dog. So that's one of the reasons we have an RV. So we can take our dog and we can leave. If it's 2:00 in the afternoon when we can leave, great. But we don't know where we're stopping tonight. We don't plan our trip ahead of time. We wanted things to fit our schedule, I guess you'd say. Yeah. And I think when I get to an RV park, I see a lot of people doing the same thing and getting up and leaving in the morning just like me. And so I think there is a large segment of the RV community that's probably a lot like me. And that's what we're building. That's what we're building for is the transient, if you will, in between destinations.
Right.
And Jim, I think you pointed out pretty well that you are a traveler, not necessarily a camper. And you're one of the guys. And look at our friends, Mike Wendland. He likes to do the 330 rule, 330 miles a day at the most, or end by 3:30 in the afternoon. And then he does the campground thing. Now there are others that sounds like you're one of those guys that can get up at daybreak and drive 500 miles without any issue. You've got a big diesel pusher. You've got the capability to do it. You don't have to stop for fuel, etc. But it seems as though there are more and more people that fall into that category. Because as my wife points out, she doesn't like pine cones because it reminds her of when she was a Girl Scout and she didn't like it. So,
well, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think it's bigger. I think it's bigger than that. My son lives in Lake St. Louis, Missouri, about an hour and 10 minutes from here. And I've been watching that's Wentzville, that whole area, that corner of St. Louis has exploded the last 20 years. There are just literally hundreds of thousands of homes. There's a Ford plant. There's a new Camping World there. There's St. Louis RV. There's just a ton of traffic at the confluence of 40 and 70. And I've been looking at that area saying, why isn't there an RV park there? There's nowhere to stop. And literally there are probably 6 or maybe 5 RV storage facilities within that area that I've seen thousands of RVs parked. Somebody's paying to store them. They can't use them. And I think the idea literally is bigger because you've got folks that have a medical test tomorrow night, and they want to go close to the hospital, so they got to get up 2 o'clock in the morning, and they can't eat, but they own an RV. But what are they doing? They're going to a hotel close to the. I just think that there is a large amount of waste happening of people that own these assets and really can't use them for the things that are going on in life, a ball game, a wedding, a family reunion. If there was a convenient place to, close to the, I'll say the population centers.
I want to catch up on a couple of our notes. Jerry says, great idea. Fewer Walmarts are allowing overnights, and that's true. A lot of them are stopping there. He also says truckers need the rest area and truck stops because of the new rest rules and when they have to stop. Sandy's got probably the best question so far tonight. It's specifically related to what you're doing. Sandy wants to know, is there a limit to the amount of time you will allow people to stay?
Not at all. Not at this time. I don't see doing that. I don't know that somebody might have a business meeting in the area. They might want to park here and use it as a hub. We're in the middle of canoeing capital USA. I think that maybe not. There might be larger areas where canoeing happens, but during the summer, we have Merrimack Caverns, which everybody knows about, which is only 7 miles away. We've got Onondaga Cave. We've got all sorts of rivers. There's a lot of tourism in the area that I've heard, and I live here, so I don't need to go look at the RV parks or the campgrounds to see if they're full. But I've heard that they fill up as it is, and there's still not enough room for the people that come to the area, during tourist season.
Yep. All right, we also have Diane and Martin Quayle. They are the state directors of the Maine Good Sam, state directors for the state of Maine, I should say that. And they've done a nice job taking that back over again last year. And then Jerry popped up again and said, same idea behind the KOA Journey campgrounds. I'm going to disagree with you, Jerry. That's still a regular campground, and you're going to pay the price of KOA. And we've had KOA, we've had Toby on the show.
Yep.
And we love KOA, but that's still a regular campground. I don't think you see any of the journeys that look like what we have up on the screen there. How many sites do you have, or is everyone going to be a cookie cutter? Let's start with the number of sites first.
Well, there's 24 sites in this existing layout that you can see in the picture. 15 of them are already paved in the photo. That was from about a week ago. Today we finished prepping the other 9 spots for asphalt, but the weather's coming, so we're going to be, I don't know when we're going to get those other 9 asphalted. So we capped them off with white rock today and rolled it in, and it's actually this picture was taken before that front road was done. The front road is asphalted now too. If you look right at the front, that main exit road. So the whole thing is advanced since that photo was taken. And I own the land around it. You can see there's a big space behind it. So we're positioned, obviously, if we want to expand it or build a horse barn or whatever else we might decide to do. But right now, our objective is to get open and accomplish the mission that I set out to accomplish, which was to automate this park.
Okay, I got to stop you there because I want to keep Sandy in the conversation here, and she brings up a very good point. And we cover the good stuff and the bad stuff here, but I think she raises a good point. She says, I'm not an RV snob, and I can validate that. She's a very professional businesswoman. But there is a difference between a full-time RVer and a squatter. If you are not limiting, how will you stop your parks from filling up with these types of people? Sorry, have to ask, don't hate me. That's a very valid point. I'll tell you why. Chuck Woodbury writes about this a lot in his Saturday morning newsletters, and he's been on the road now for 30 or 40 years. One of the big issues in our industry is that the campgrounds are allowing people to use them as their home. The units are decrepit, they're broken down, they just want the revenue. It turns off the average RV. There's a problem, and I never thought there was. Certainly most of the time that I've RV'd, and much like yourself probably, you drive, and when you want to stop, you open up the directory and find a campground and go. Now we've got all these apps, but there's a real serious issue in our industry, and if you're going to address that, obviously the best time to do it is right out the gate. But she brings up a point. Has that come up in your discussions?
I've had several people ask, and you'll have to forgive me here. I'm going to have to live this a little bit to make some of these decisions. You're saying it's an issue. I haven't experienced that issue, so I really don't have an educated answer, except that I'm in business. So if I can fill a spot to a certain degree, I don't know that's going to matter. Although I am going to be concerned about, I think, and I was talking with my lawyer the other day briefly about this subject, about how long can someone stay before it changes how you deal with removing them if you needed to, for example.
Yep.
In our agreement.
And that is exactly the problem for a lot of these campgrounds. And
Yep.
and it goes a step further, and Sandy might be able to speak to this, but because they are there and they're more or less squatters, now it rises and it gets into the local newspapers, and the towns now become involved in the campground business. And now they want to go ahead, John, I'm sorry.
Not an issue. He owns the town.
No, well, I don't know if the campground, I don't know if this site is in the town that he owns.
No. Well, this one is, right?
Yeah. This one.
When he tries to expand, it's not going to be. Steve Giano says, "Is this a franchise?" Hi, Steve. Glad you could join us tonight.
Not yet.
Not yet, right?
That's a good way to answer it. I think it could be, and certainly I'm interested in building the footprint or the recipe, if you will, pulling all the pieces and parts together, and then see where it goes from there. But we got to get this open and accomplished. My first objective is to make this the most stress-free RV parking facility in existence. And if I do that, then and to go back to the last question, I'd like to kind of finish answering it. I don't want Sandy or anybody to think that I'm not concerned. We have to live it a little bit. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, what my dad always said. So until I have that problem, I'm not going to really focus on a problem that I haven't lived through yet. The problems that I know about is I want to be able to make this RV park as automated as possible. If Amazon is successful, eBay, I like buying stuff on eBay and Amazon because frankly, I'm busy and I don't want to stand in line. I don't want to talk to somebody. Sometimes I'm just that way. I just want to get what I need and move on. And if we are successful, customers that want to come use this RV park won't have to talk to me or any staff or anybody else. It'll be, go to the website, book your site, get your confirmation number, have your site number, right where you're going. You'll pull in on your site. Our sensors are going to know you're there. Then you'll check in with your confirmation number. The electric will come on, the water will come on, access to sewer will happen. You'll have access to Wi-Fi. You'll have access to the trash dumpster. You'll have access to the security camera system.
Right.
Well, you bring up a good point, and you have a background in technology. So, we've all looked at this. As I said, John and I looked at this, or at least discussed this, as many campground owners have. But we are at a point where there is so much technology out there. There's no reason why it cannot work. But you're at the leading edge of that because you've already been in that technology space and used it for other purposes.
Right. But Bob, let's talk about a couple of things here. Even that sign kind of says it. Self-park.
Yeah.
Park, in this case, is a verb. It's not a noun. Okay. And Sandy brings up the point where she says, if I stop in a park that's full of squatters, I leave and never give them a second chance. Well, in one of the slides that Jerry has, that Jim has up in his Facebook page, this is not, there are no amenities. There's no pool. There's no clubhouse. There's no cabana. There's no cookout area. So I don't know if those people that Sandy's referring to would want to stay there because it's a place to park. Verb, as opposed, but it's not a park. It's a place. I don't know if that's a good enough use of the English language, but it's a place to park, but it's not a park. And I don't know if there's going to be a community. I kind of draw the parallel, and Bob and I had talked, and Jim and I had talked earlier, on the Ohio Turnpike, where there are overnight hookups on the Ohio Turnpike for people to pull in off the road, hook up, have their electricity, have their air conditioning, have their satellite dish, and in the morning, move on. So
that's what we're building for. That is what we're building for. Now, if somebody has, somebody in the area they want to visit, or as I said earlier, if they want to make it a hub and go to the river for the day and then come back, Cracker Barrel's a half mile away. Walmart's a mile away. The fuel's 30 seconds down the street. You're at a fuel stop. So, all the conveniences are there. We're lit up. We're safe. We literally have an AT&T tower adjacent to the property. It's on another lot that I own. So you have great cell service. We have Wi-Fi. I think I forget what it was now, 5 down and a half up or something like that for every user. So you'll be able to stream Netflix or whatever you want to stream, and you have clear view of the sky for satellite. It's intended to be as everything's pull through. Just drive in, park. Everything's painted, so you know right where to park. Everything's lit up. We've got huge site signs, so when you pull off the highway, if you've already booked Site 12, you'll be able to see Site 12 when you pull in from 200 yards away. And you'll just follow the road around, pull right in, park, and check in and confirm.
How about Site 22?
Yeah, there you go. And it lights up. It lights up in the dark. So it's that 22 is bright. You'll see it very well.
Jim, talk about some of your experiences with your 42-foot unit, probably pulling a trailer or pulling a car or something.
Before you do that, Jerry has a comment. He says, we stayed at a city park, and Jim and I talked about this earlier today. This could be a boon to cities that license this stuff out to Jim to put these, because they don't take care of their parks. But he said this one sounds like it may have been taken care of in Antigua, Wisconsin, that operated this way. You reserved and paid online, show up at the park, look for your name on a site, and back in. Never saw a person the 2 days we stayed. Similar concept. Yep.
Did he say back in? Did he say back in? Backed in?
Yeah, he backed in. You're a pull-through guy.
The city's doing pretty good, but that's still one of the things it's I guess pet peeve or one of my objectives. It costs a lot of money to build all those roads and make everything pull through, but I feel like I certainly will pay for it. I certainly would prefer that when I'm tired after driving that 500 miles and the dog is aching to get out of the RV and we're all just wanting to get parked. So anyway, our objective, and I'll say it again, is to make this the most stress-free parking experience that we can make it. And if that's what people want, then we'll find out. That's where we are.
Hey, but it's important to tell Sandy that her question, we're not suggesting that her question was irrelevant, but I think Jim pointed out that it hasn't become an issue yet because he's only been open a couple days. But it may become an issue, and then he'll have to deal with it. But because it has become an issue in other types of facilities.
Well, one of the things,
and I think it's good to have the input also, and she agrees that it may not be an issue. But Maria's joined us tonight. Good evening, Maria. You're late. Must have been a late dinner or late meeting, one or the other.
We're late for our break too.
Let me, if we can, as I explained to Jim, let's do a quick public service announcement. You're on, John.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. And we want to ask that what you do is the following. Somewhere on your screen, whether it be a phone, whether it be an iPad, whether it be a tablet of some type or a laptop, there's a button there that says share. Kindly share this show with other people, because here's a concept that is brand new to the RV world, and I know many people that may not have even thought of this would have an interest in it. So do that. It allows us to reach 7 to 10 to 12,000 people per week, and with your cooperation, because you always help us out with the best questions of any show that's on in the country, because we involve our audience. Share. We appreciate it.
When I just saw Steve had another one here.
Oh,
I'm not sure this would really be a problem. What do you think, Jim?
Well, my position on that one, that'll be interesting. You've got all sorts of mindsets out there. God knows that. But I think if I'm a local municipality, and I am, to a certain
right, you've got the town. Right. You own the town.
That's right. And I would say this: you want sales tax revenue, you want visitors, your businesses want people to eat at the Cracker Barrel and buy fuel at the fuel stop. Trust me. If you have a city fair, you want a place for people to be able to come. So I think most municipalities, that's why they have. That's why they have parks. That's why the one in Wisconsin allows RVs to park in it. So I don't think it's a problem. But if it's okay, I wanted to back up and answer Sandy's question, because my boss hit me up on a text while we were doing the public service announcement. And
your boss being your wife?
Yeah, and my wife Marla, and she said to
Right.
tell Sandy that we won't allow it to turn into a squatter park. So there you go. There's the definitive answer on that concern. It won't be.
Well, Sandy, I'm going to provide you, and we take all questions, Sandy. I know this is your first time watching the show, but my feeling is the one who's smart enough to ask the questions is going to get talked about, right, John?
Say that again.
The one who asked the question is going to get talked about.
Well,
we have a lot of viewers that don't.
But Sandy, and where's Sandy at? Where's Sandy at, Bob? Where's she at?
I don't know. We met her in Hershey. We met her in Hershey. She was at the RVWA meeting in Hershey.
Okay, so Sandy, just type in where you're from. Here's the thing with the RV industry. There's not a lot of communication between the various segments of the RV industry, between the RV parks, and Bob and I know that pretty well. There is very little communication between RV manufacturers and RV parks. And sometimes the parks don't even like the manufacturers because of a wide variety of different reasons. What we're doing with this show is allowing people from every aspect of the RV industry to be on our show, both as a guest, but even as a viewer like you are right now, and ask a question. We don't censor questions.
No, and we will connect people. Sandy, I'll get you all of Jim's information. And I'll send Jim your information too. That's the beauty of having our live audience.
Yeah. And now,
thank you.
I see Michelle just clicked in and says, sorry to be late, but Michelle went from one area of Arizona out to California, and she pulled into a park, an RV park, after they closed or right around closing time, and left at sunrise. So, the thing I was joking with you, Jim, before, with your big unit pulling in the dark, it's not an easy thing to do hookups in the dark. You can do that.
Yeah. Jim, just so you know, Jim, Sandy, no, two gals in a Boston Brood is Michelle Fontaine and Laurie Church. Michelle is also the director of marketing communications for Rolling on TV. And I'm sure somewhere down the road, we'll get to a segment on this kind of activity. She's also an active RVer. Rolling on TV is the #1 RV lifestyle show in the country. The reason I mention that, folks, is Jim is a successful businessman, and we should repeat this, that he's a successful businessman who happens to be an RVer who happened to see a need and has developed it. So he doesn't have the relationships in the RV industry that all of us do. So we're going to help him as much as we can on that. So if we repeat stuff and you say, wow, why is the Army talking about that?
Right.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know. And he will tell you, he doesn't know anybody right now except John and Bob.
I've not attended a single trade show. I've done nothing more than buy RVs and use them and apply my gut instincts of what I want, what I think is missing, and I'll learn something. I'm sure we'll make some mistakes, but at the end of the day, I think that there is a need for what we're building, and we'll find out. I can mitigate some of the risk because I own the land. So we've invested quite a bit in the technology side. I've got a programmer on staff on one of my other companies. And so we've developed software before. We know how to do it. I'm a builder, so I build things. It's just kind of a unique situation that fits my skills and my situation where I am in life. And actually, my wife and I made the decision to pull the trigger on this thing in late July. We had a meeting in Joplin, Missouri. We drove our RV down there because, again, we like to take our dog. We knew we were going to be there a couple days. We actually towed a car that time, stayed in a campground. It was fine, nice little campground. But on the way home, we just decided, somebody needs to do this. And we have the acreage, maybe 3 acres that I've used for this project. And I think it'll be successful. We don't know. We hope that we are. We certainly don't know everything. We're applying what our experiences has been and what we feel like is missing to what we're building.
I'll tell you one thing. You watch I mean, this is running live right now, but a vast majority of our viewers watch it on replay, and it's posted live right after this. It's on. You keep looking back on this and looking at, and actually we'll ask you, look at the questions, the comments that people make, respond to those questions. And we've already got somebody saying, Maria saying, I've never heard of this. It will be very handy as we'll be doing more cross-country travel and love this idea. The people that watch this show and communicate with us are generally active RVers. And if they don't like it, they have no problem telling us.
Yeah, what John was talking about, if we would ask Jim after the show or tomorrow morning over a cup of coffee, if you would also go back through the comments, which John and I do every night, every week, and feel free to answer them directly, because you can't do it all within the hour, and that's an important part. Jerry says, Michelle, so we should feel sorry for Michelle and Laurie because they're watching us from their hot tub. I know they just got back from Jordan National Park, one of the national parks, and they're heading out to Lake Havasu and Quartzsite, where they'll be shooting some segments for rolling on TV there. Jerry says, this is interesting. Let's pull that one down. It's just the usual way to deal with filtering out the undesirables is to set an age limit. My rig is 24 years old. I sometimes have to send a pic to get into a park. Now, that's another thing that you may not be familiar with, Jim, but a lot of campgrounds have what they call the 10-year rule, and they don't want anybody over 10 years. And a lot of them just make it arbitrary. If you say the year of your coach, I mean, Jerry's got this pristine, is that a Safari or a Trek, Jerry? I forget. I think it's a Safari, 24-year-old Safari. Any campground would take it. And having that kind of a rule, it completely eliminates the retro and the people who are doing what you're doing to your Barracudas, they're doing to trailers. Restoring old Airstream trailers and vintage trailers. Yeah. So what the smarter campgrounds say, send me a picture and then we'll determine if we want you.
Yeah, I think our bigger problem is, I don't think that's going to be our problem. I think our bigger problem is going to be, in some ways, retraining a segment of the RV community, because while I think there's a lot of people that are going to want to use the RV park the way that we're using it, the way that we're building it for, there's a lot of people that don't understand. They're not going to stop and think about, well, why isn't there a pool? Why isn't there a fire ring? Why isn't there picnic tables? Why isn't there a shower house? And because they want those things, they don't understand that we're building it for the other part of the community, and they're welcome to come. But when I pull in at 10 o'clock at night, honestly, I don't want to smell the smoke. That's one of my things about, if I'm just trying to get in and get parked and go to bed, I'm not interested in a fire, building a fire or anything like that. So we've already had some, I'll say, pushback or negativity in that way. People are going to understand this is not a campground. And
it's a valid point, and we're generating some questions on that line. Sandy wants to know, what are you charging per night, and will you have a weekly rate? And Michelle wants to know, so is it a meter thing? So I assume she thinks, and then you can explain your pedestals, but what about the rates and the weekly stuff?
Yeah, we've come up with rates, and guys, honestly, it's a new model, so we start somewhere. We can always adjust, but our rates right now are set at $39 what we call a term, $39 for a term of 16 hours, because that's, again, what more than I think most people that are going to want this particular application are actually going to be there. If you want to stay for 24, we add a $10 upcharge, $10 upcharge for 24 hours. If you're going to stay for 2 days to 6 days, we actually give you a discount. We charge $35 a day. And then we have a rate of $32 for 7 to 28 days. And we don't have a rate past that because we're not really looking to do anything past that. And we haven't lived it and experienced it.
Yeah, I'm not sure you want to have anything over 7 days. And Sandy would probably have a better input on that, because it truly is for the person driving through town. With respect to that, what about Michelle's question on the meters and the water and electricity? How do you work that out.
We didn't see a need to meter it. We buy and pay for our water and sewer like any other business in the town, and so that we'll be metered. And we're just working off of what we expect to be the average consumptions or usages for electric, sewer, water. We did have the way we structured this. Every unit has its own home run. And we really went back and forth on that quite a bit to decide if we wanted to try to control the electric off and on at the site or from a central location. And so what we landed on was probably the more expensive way, because we ran home runs on every electric run to each site. We also ran home runs on the water. And so we were able to then put all of our smart switches and smart valves in one control facility. So that is where the computers are. That's where the internet comes in. That is where we literally have smart switches where we can turn off each individual unit. But what that also did is it kept the site kind of common, if you will, so everybody wouldn't pull in and see extra things in the site to confuse them. We were somewhat concerned that I don't want to add stress by having something new. And the one thing that we did have to develop was a sewer access control. So we developed a slide up door system.
Yeah, I saw that.
You can see some of the photos on our Facebook page currently. And basically, when the power comes onto the site, there's power to the site for the nightlight, for the site sign itself. It's lit up. And then we have 6 parking lot lights, 30-foot tall. And the whole park, going back to Sandy's concern or the long-term stay, it's lit up, not like I would say Walmart parking lot, but probably not a whole lot less. It's pretty bright. The security cameras are on 24/7. We have 16 or 17 cameras there. And we want to give our guests access to those cameras. So if they hear something or they're concerned about something, they literally could pull those cameras up or have them on their iPad and look.
That's a great idea.
And we've actually installed today, I actually took a picture of it just as I was leaving the facility. On our control building, we took one of the windows and put a television monitor in the window in place of the window. And we actually have all of our cameras showing on that monitor 24/7 as of today.
People can see that it's really.
Yes, yeah. So my theory there is if you're a bad guy and you're wandering around, you're walking around and you're driving through there, you're going to see, hey, I'm on the camera, so I'm going to move on. And at the same time, the folks that are there will know the cameras are real and they are on, and I can see what I can see. So it's just all to add convenience and add some security and safety, and again to reduce the stress at the end of the day.
By having that access to the sewer that you can't, that would prevent somebody from driving in off the street.
And dumping.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and not that I'm not that worried about that either, except that I guess that comes from my town stewardship. I don't want to have something happen that causes problems. Somebody could come in at night and dump something besides sewer. So we just wanted to protect it. So it's a fairly simple device that we developed and built, and it's basically you'll pull up, and when the power comes onto the site, which would be generally when you would check in, as you pull in and confirm that you're there, our sensors will know you're there, and then we turn on the power to the actual 50 amp or 30 and 20 amp. You've got a choice. That's the one new thing besides the sewer button is you have a choice. You're going to pick 50 amp or 30 and 20 amp, and of course the breakers are the same. The box that you plug into looks exactly like probably 1,000 pedestals you've all seen before, but you will have to choose 50 or 30 and 20 because we do have that home run, and we had to control the maximum of 50 amps ever going through that copper wire going to that one site. We couldn't have somebody trying to plug in both at the same time. So when the power comes on, then the button lights up, and there's a nice big sticker right on the device. You might have a picture of that you can show folks. But it lights up like a doorbell, and you push the button, it buzzes, you can hear it buzzing, and the clear sign right on the saying slide up. And it's actually kind of a nice bonus, I guess, out of that whole device is that if you don't want to screw your sewer hose in and go to all that trouble, the device has enough weight, and it's built on stainless steel drawer glides, so it has enough weight that when you pick it up, you put your hose in, and you can let it right back down, and basically it holds that hose in and kind of makes it more convenient than trying to screw your housing in and then attaching your hose. So
I don't have that. Let me catch up on comments. Jim Conboy is on. Jim owns a franchise for RV Armor Roof and does a lot of roof.
A big gulp there, Jim.
I'm sorry.
You got a big gulp.
It's just a whatever it is.
Right. Well,
the 64 ounce for $1 at.
It came from Applebee's. They gave it to me on the way out the door. I always drink tea, and they know me well, and they always give me one to go.
All right. Walter Swenson says late arrival. That's all right. We'll forgive you, Walter. We know how busy you are. Jim, Walter is the gentleman who passed on the information about your business, and we, John and I and Walter and all the guys at the Good Sam, we kind of look out for each other. But he passed that on to me. So Walter, are you impressed? You gave it to me Monday morning, and we got the guy on the show Wednesday night. He says he's going to need them from Massachusetts to Arizona next year because did you see his roadmap for his 2021?
But we got to stop. We got to stop here because although Walter was the one who told you about Jim, Walter and Jim are polar opposites when it comes to RVing, because you heard Jim say earlier tonight that he'll just jump in his RV in the morning and drive 500 miles and not know where he's going to stop. Walter showed us his trip for 2021, where he's got it all calculated. He's going to stop at this place this night, the next night. And Walter, you got to figure it out. So one of those nights is in Sullivan, Missouri.
Jim, he's got the Google Maps, and under it, he's got 2 spreadsheets with the amount of mileage between the towns and where he wants to stay and how many hours he's going to drive. And so he's the other side of the equation. He's got about 9 stops from Massachusetts to Arizona.
Well, God bless him. I'm not that organized. I'm not. I'm all over the map. I don't know what I'm going to be doing at noon tomorrow, to tell you the truth. But I like that. That's what makes me happy. I like staying busy, and like I said, if we decide to go to, and actually my wife and I are talking about jumping in and going somewhere this weekend, because we've about got this thing done, and the weather's going to be raining, so there's not much I can do, and we might just head south for a few days and then come back next week and get back at it. But no, that we're spontaneous. That's the whole point of having the RV for me. But God bless him, I get it, and no worries. I'm just not that organized.
But wait, there's more. Walter says I am, and I designed this very specific type of campground about 3 years ago on paper. You actually did it, but Walter. So you know what? You should really get together with Walter offline here and talk, because Walter is brilliant when it comes to RVing, and he could.
He's also an engineer, so he thinks like an engineer, and he's detailed to the 10th degree.
Close to match
on what he does, and him and his local cohorts at Good Sam have a lot of fun.
But read some of these other comments. There's some good comments here. Go all the way up.
Jim says if one is traveling and just wants to stop to dump tanks, is that available? That's a good question.
That's obviously we can accommodate that. We haven't prepared for that just yet, but I think as we perfect, again, the core concept is the overnight stay, the parking, the automation. When we get all that done, it wouldn't be anything to add an option. I'm going to stop in at 2 p.m. and dump, and here I'll pay you and move on and not have to deal with this. So
would you do that on an empty site, or would you have a separate dump station?
Right now, I would presume you would use an available site, and I would presume you would have that. If I need to build an extra dump station, I could. Again, some of these things we'll have to live through, but that wouldn't be hard to accommodate. So I'm sure we could be able to offer that once we get, again, our core concept nailed and taken care of. Then we'll start to add all of the extra levels, if you will, the extra options and.
Right. Maria wants to know if it's near Hamilton.
Near what?
Is it near Hamilton, Missouri?
If it is, Hamilton's awful small, because I don't know where Hamilton is, and I've been all over.
Maybe it's in another state. Where you're talking about Hamilton, Maria. Jerry's got a question or a statement, but I don't understand it. I think he
And
means
one
add one closed propane filling station and one closed filling station will throw a monkey wrench into those plans. Jerry, I can give you Jim's email address, and unless you got a quick answer to that, you do that.
Oh, Jerry will figure out. He'll rephrase his thing before.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah, I mean,
email it up. Yeah.
and I encourage everybody to come to our Facebook page. We spent like $100 last week to kind of announce that we have this soft opening on those first 15 sites, and pretty much had one staff member full time ever since answering questions. And so I welcome everybody to come to that site, or you can share my email, of course, or my cell number. I have no problem. You can share that. We're happy to answer those questions.
Well, we got the number down below, so why don't we just run them through the regular number?
That's fine.
Have that, yeah.
That's fine. It'll get to me. I've got a nice young man named Jordan that I have made the kind of project administrator through this transition of soft opening to actually, full opening sometime in the near future. But he'll get whatever needs to get to me, or he doesn't know how to answer. He'll get to me. So feel free to contact us any number of ways.
Brian, your son?
Brian is my son. Yes.
Yeah.
But Jordan Thexton is the person I just mentioned.
Brian found out that Hamilton, Missouri is north of Kansas City, not near Sullivan.
Oh, well, that's why that's the other end of the state, the other side of the state and north of us, probably about 300 miles away.
Yeah, Walter Propane. We're 4 hours from Hamilton and 45 minutes outside of St. Louis, whoever those folks are. Jim, what would you tell people? I mean, you'll be fully operational this summer. You get to plan all your paving and that type of thing will all be done, right?
Well, they're open now.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, we're open now, and actually, all 24 sites could be used if we needed them. The last 9, again today, we had all of the rock was hauled in and they rolled and compressed, compacted, whatever the right phrase is for the engineering friends out there. It's ready for asphalt, but the weather is coming and we're not going to be able to finish asphalt. And I don't know when, but sometime before late spring, we'll get those last 9 sites asphalted. The rest of the park is done. The only thing that I'm still working on, and I have figured out exactly where we're going to put the kiosk. We are going to have a kiosk and a shelter that will allow somebody who's maybe not really technologically advanced that wants to just pull in and use their credit card right at a kiosk or put in $20 bill or whatever. We'll have that. That's actually the next thing that I'm going to build, and I would suspect the next 4 weeks roughly I'll have that done. Now, will it all be tied together yet? Hard to say, because unlike that well-planning engineering friend there, like I said earlier, I just go forward, and when we hit a brick wall, we solve it, and we keep hammering on it till we do. So I would suspect by sometime this summer we'll hit our automation. I don't know exactly how long it'll take. That's what we're looking to do.
When you hit a brick wall, you just go through it. One thing that comes to mind listening and watching these, what criteria, because I told you today, I think this is going to be a home run, but what criteria are you going to look for as you start to expand? What's going to be most important to you, and let's see what our fans think. Well,
actually, I have my eye on a couple of pieces of real estate already for the next, couple of parks. As far as expansion beyond the next couple, I would begin to do more of what I'm doing right now, and that is network and talk to people that know more than I do, and say, okay, I want to prove this. I want to make sure this works. I want to make sure that we're making the right kind of revenue for the investment, all of that. And then say, okay, now where should these be? I would think they would need to be in places like I mentioned earlier, Lake St. Louis, Wentzville, Missouri. Anybody in this area that knows that would understand why I'm saying that. You have car plants, you have RV sales facilities, you have hundreds of thousands of people and no RV, no place to stop for a night, a friend coming by or whatever, so there's just a myriad of reasons why I would think a population center like that would be the places that I would want to build the next several. However, to go buy 6-7 acres and engineer it and deal with the city planning and zoning and all the things it's going to take and the time constraints, that would have added a lot of risk for a testing facility. This facility, I owned the land, so it mitigated a lot of the risk, and I'm the city, so I didn't have to worry about a whole lot of delays. And of course, we built everything to all the modern specs, and I believe I know how to build. I built multiple warehouses and dozens and dozens of homes, and what we're building is safety minded and access and all of that stuff. So, but once we prove out the model, or as soon as we feel confident, then we plan on massive expansion. And I don't know how else to say it, but if we're wrong, then we'll back up and we'll look at what do we need to do different, or maybe the market isn't there for this. But it seems like it is, and I know that as long as we're where people are wanting to stop for the night, I think that's what is enhanced by being near the population centers, because there's more reason to want to stop for the night. There's more people there.
Yeah, Walter's got the magic word there, similar to a Holiday Inn or McDonald's. It's got to be kind of similar to what they are, so that the branding in terms of people look at it. Because we got Nick Wright on here, and Nick owns Unlimited RV down in Connecticut, does a lot of rental business, and he says sounds like a great idea for self-serve. You may have missed the early part, Nick. It is in fact self-serve and automated. Only about an hour south of our Independence, Missouri dealership location. So I don't know. Do you think that's our Nick Wright, John, down in Unlimited RV, or
it looks like him?
Does it? Yeah. But I didn't think he had a Missouri.
No, I know they have a Tennessee one, but
yeah, I thought he had a Tennessee one. Nick,
well,
if you are Unlimited RV, then I would suggest, and you got something in Missouri, we'll make sure that we get you Jim's contact information, because I'm sure your renters have a need for stuff like this, and I think that would also be a big thing, especially when you see the trending, and here we are already at 7:58. But when you see the trending now towards outfits like the Airbnbs, if you will, of the RV industry, we now have RV Share, we have Outdoorsy, we have our rental companies. There's a lot of the new generation that doesn't want to necessarily own things; they like to rent things. There's going to be a lot of them on the road, and this would be something really.
And they're not used to backing in the dark under the trees next to a river. So I think this could be necessary for that segment of the RVers as well. Basically any city that has 3 or 4 hotels. I've told a few people this as we've talked about it. In theory, the folks driving down the highway, why are they staying at a hotel? Because they've got a suitcase and no bed. Well, there's a large segment, some proportionate amount traveling down the highway in an RV that want to stop somewhere for the night. They've got a bed, but no place to park. And you can't park an RV just anywhere. And as we said earlier, if you park in some places, you're not going to rest anyway. So, I think if we're right, then we've got a lot of potential for the model.
Sandy's got a great point there, Jim, because one of the things that it's a great place for new buyers to test things out. A lot of our dealers will make deals with local campgrounds and have them, but they don't necessarily need the campground as much as they know, and they want to learn the systems. So that would also be another thing, and that is our Nick Wright. And he says, so he's got the Tennessee and Connecticut operations. His partner's got the Missouri and Vegas location, so they are in Missouri. Wow, we're at 7:59, guys. I mean, we could probably go for another. I told you to go fast, Jim. But let me have John do a quick.
Hey, I wanted to tell the folks that asked about the propane. I have a good friend in the propane business, so if we need it, we could obviously get a propane answer. But there is a fast trip gas station fuel stop literally 2 minutes from us that has a propane service station and a sewer dome. So
Beautiful.
it's pretty handy. So I don't know if anybody will even need that from me.
No, you wouldn't need it there, then no.
I
But
wouldn't.
again, they're on the road, so they're used to
Yeah.
Right.
to looking
And
for
you're
these
not in
things.
the middle of nowhere either. So
No, we have all this. We have a lot of services. There's a lot of things very, very close to us, and like I say, we're literally at the 223.4 mile marker. It's funny, the mile post sign is right in front of our entrance, and
you're on, it's 44 or 66.
I-44.
Same road.
Route 66 is I guess extinct in a certain way. I mean, they have it marked for historical purposes, but the service road of I-44, it's coming through our town now, is still designated as Route 66. And actually, the pavement that comes by my office is Route 66, the original.
Yeah, I knew it had to be a service road because you're not going to get a curb cut on an interstate highway.
No.
By any means. So, we just, as we wrap the show up, we want to thank everybody who's viewed it tonight. I know this is going to get thousands and thousands of views because
this is going to be a big one.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you for your interest in our crazy ideas. And
John and I love crazy ideas, and most of our fans are crazy anyways because they watch us every week. So that
Walter says, thank you for building my overnight park. But Walter, get a hold of Jim directly, and maybe you can stay there when you make your trip out there.
You bet.
As Walter will tell you, we need something like this. We don't have any campgrounds within just one inside of 495 in the Boston area, mainly because real estate's so expensive. But these, can you imagine the people? We get so many requests from people coming into the area say, "Can you give me a local campground to Boston?" And say, "Yeah, it's 40 miles away."
Wow. Well, but that is one of the metrics that this model helps solve, because honestly, we won't have a lot of labor. We won't have that store. We won't have that liability of the pool. We won't have those other costs. So we could probably pay more for the real estate and make the model make sense for the convenience of our customers or our guests. And
you don't have that giant build out.
Yeah, I think it could change things a bit. We hope so.
Well, yeah, I think you're going to change the paradigm. You're going to give them a nice offering and something that's completely different. All right, we do try to end it right at 8 because we know people give us an hour of their time every week, and we sincerely appreciate it. So, Jim, I thank you again very much for coming on. This was a great show. Go back and answer the comments when you get a chance, and I'll send you some numbers in the morning. But like I said, our goal is 1,000 views before your first cup of coffee, and I wouldn't doubt if we hit that by midnight. Closing comments, John?
Nope. Have a great day, everybody.
Jim, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right. Good night now.
Good night.